Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines where my guest is Congressman Garret Graves. The Congressman is not running for his seat again because it's been changed. It's gone from primarily majority Republican to now Democrat. What he is doing, though, is finishing strong. He's pushing 5 years worth of legislation in the next 3 months. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Congressman Garret Graves. Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates has served our community by airing Legal Lines, a community educational program for 18 years weekly to Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas. Watch Legal Lines at LockeMeredith.com or Cox Channel 1004. Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. When insurance companies have been unfair, we've never been afraid to go to trial. Fighting hard to protect your rights, we never settle a case out of convenience. We only settle when it's right for you. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know each case and client are unique and that no two cases are the same. But one thing remains constant, and that is our passion to help our clients. After an accident, we know your life has changed, which is why we passionately fight to make you and your family whole. Remember, whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555. We're here to serve you.
Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have back on the show Congressman Garret Graves. Garret, it's fantastic to see you.
Hey, great to see you and good to be back again.
The world's spinning around as fast these days, so need to get kind of caught up on where we are and where you are and kind of what's going on in the crazy world of DC.
There is a lot going on right now.
Well, so, recently you announced, I think it was in June, that you're not running again for your seat. But in the meantime, you're busting it because you've been there for what, 10 years, 9 years?
It'll be 10 years at the end of this year. And we were anticipating being around a little bit longer, but decided otherwise. And so now it's taken about 5 years worth of agenda and trying to cram it in 5 months. So got all sorts of bills we're moving through the process, things related to energy, some legal issues regarding the boundaries of Louisiana. We've got issues on coastal restoration, disasters, all kinds of things. And it's been great because we're actually moving all these bills right now. So a number of bills in the process have markups, have votes coming up. And in fact, Locke, there's one bill that has been a problem with the way that police officers and teachers are treated in regard to Social Security that penalizes or discriminates against them. People have been trying to fix this for over 40 years. And we actually just hit the threshold to guarantee a vote on this bill for the first time ever. And that's going to happen in November.
And is it because they're municipal employees or something and they're purportedly putting into another system, or what's the issue?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what happened is years ago, as you know, a lot of the public police officers, teachers, and others, they have their own pension systems. And so in some cases, they participate in those pensions, not in Social Security. And so Congress came in an effort to try and prevent them from double dipping in retirement. And when they did, they overcorrected to where literally police officers, teachers, and others get a lower Social Security payment than you and I would for working the same amount of time, paying the same amount into Social Security. So it really does discriminate against those jobs.
And they're public servants.
They're public servants. And look, we need good teachers and we need to be able to recruit them and retain them. We need good police officers. Same thing there. And you can imagine how this is really it forces people to leave rather than forcing them to stay or wanting to get into that type of work. And Louisiana is one of the most impacted states in the nation by this. And so this really could be a huge deal for us.
Well, that's good news then.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I recently read, because I'm 63, about to be 64, and I got my Social Security letter explaining everything. And I'm a lawyer, and I was reading that stuff going, I need somebody to tell me what this means. But
you got to dust your calculus back off.
It's incredible. But so that's good news. So you're in charge of, or participate at a high level of leadership in different committees and subcommittees. Is that correct?
I'm chair of the aviation subcommittee on the transportation committee.
In Denham Springs, or who just got the airport?
Yeah, we actually just put a provision in the law to allow for Livingston Parish to have their own airport in that Satsuma area, right there adjacent to I-12.
Excellent.
So that's did a groundbreaking on it just now.
Wow, how cool is that? All right, and so the other committees and subcommittees that you're on are what?
So I serve also on the House Natural Resources Committee and serve on the Energy and on the Fisheries subcommittees there. And look, the committees are really important in the House. You can imagine with 435 people, if you just throw all these bills on the floor and let anybody amend them any way they want, you'd be there all day. So the committees in the House are a really important part of the organizational structure. So the committees you serve on need to be relevant or topical to your district. So Transportation Infrastructure Committee, not just roads and bridges, but airports and ports and waterways, Corps of Engineers, FEMA, pipelines, economic development, all these things are critical to Louisiana. And the Natural Resources Committee, everything having to do with energy production, with fisheries, things that are so important to us as well. So that's why we joined those committees, and it's been fantastic because we've been able to get some great wins for the state.
Explain to me, I'm under the impression it's kind of longevity determines whether or not you're going to move up the ladder and ultimately have those very powerful positions, because you are able to pick and decide with support, what you're going to focus on. So now that you're not running in this most recent upcoming election, does another Republican take that position, or if the
Yeah, well, so obviously,
but it's not a Louisianian, I'm sure.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? Let me give you a what if. If we had stayed and run again and been reelected, then in January, I'd say a 90+% chance that we would be chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Which, just to put things in perspective, Locke, that means we would have the pen. We would be writing the bills on roads and bridges, which projects are funded. New Mississippi River Bridge. We would be in, not just massive money, but also the policy changes. I mean, look, how many people get so frustrated at the cost and the amount of time it takes to get a Corps of Engineer project done? How many people get frustrated at FEMA in preparation for a disaster, and of course in the aftermath of a disaster? We would be in charge of using our experience and our lessons learned in Louisiana to influence these laws, to write laws in a way that really reflects the government that the citizens deserve. And
Army Corps of Engineers.
yeah. So I mean, that would have been a dream for Louisiana. But of course, with the new situation, with the way that the new maps are drawn, it doesn't make sense to run in these conditions. And unfortunately, the capital region, which, I remind you where we are right now, this is the most populated parish in the state of Louisiana. But this capital region under the new maps is split up into 4 of the 6 congressional districts, which unfortunately really dilutes the voice of this area, as opposed to as it is now with having 1 primary member of Congress. Now you're going to have 4, 1 based out of New Orleans, 1 based out of probably the North Shore area, 1 based out of Shreveport, and 1 based out of Monroe. So it's really unfortunate for this area.
So redrawing District 6, which is your district, affects the other districts, I assume, pretty close to the area?
It's like a balloon. You squeeze it somewhere, it's going to pop out elsewhere. And so, yeah, it does affect all 6 congressional districts in the state of Louisiana will change for this election. And they've done some things that are pretty wild, but it looks like they're going to be in place at least for 2 years. So we'll see what happens after that, because the courts, I think, will definitely be getting involved here.
And so briefly, I want to get into kind of what's happened, just the mechanics of it, not necessarily the politics of it all, but just what happened. Is the litigation still ongoing? Sounds like yes. And what court is going to decide?
Sure. So yes, there is still litigation going on, and there actually could be decisions as soon as the end of October or maybe even November. But I think likely there'll be some pretty clear direction given by the court by the end of this year, by the end of 2024, and so that would set the terms under which the elections in 2026 would take place. So, like I said, I believe there are going to be new maps. I think the court's going to be pretty forceful in the redrawing, and I think it'll thankfully reassemble some district that is where the capital region is once again centric, or sort of the foundational anchor.
All right, well, let's continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith, Legal Lounge. My very special guest, Congressman Garret Graves. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. Injuries happen when you least expect them to, making your life more complicated. At Locke Meredith, Schoenfegen & Associates, we know this, and we strive to help each of our clients during these times. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555.
Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates has won for our clients over $175 million over the decades, but our greatest success is our clients who have chosen and trusted us to help them. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call. You've got nothing to lose.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Trust is important when hiring an injury law firm. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, thousands have trusted us and gotten the results they deserved. Visit us at LockeMeredith.com. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, very pleased to have back on the show Congressman Garret Graves for District 6. A lot of people in that district, I guess even more now perhaps?
We're just under 800,000 people across a dozen parishes.
Incredible. So, and it's a lot of important infrastructure is contained within District 6, including the seat of government, which is a fascinating turn of events. So explain to me how you go about, because you said when we were speaking earlier that you're trying to push 5 years of bills and ideas and philosophies and policies in the next 3 months. How do you do that, Garret?
Well, look, bottom line is that we had a whole list of ideas and we were kind of spacing them out and trying to make sure we were properly prioritizing. But now with the decision we weren't going to run again, we want to do everything we can to get as many of them through. So the first thing is taking a look at your list, figuring out how you're going to prioritize them, splitting them all across the different committees. But look, we talked earlier about the Social Security bill. This is something we've been working on for a while. We had kind of put a strategy in place and we are following that strategy, forcing this bill for a vote for the first time in over 4 years.
Why is somebody fighting that?
Well, the reason they're fighting it is because the Social Security Trust Fund is predicted to become insolvent by 2034. And so they're saying, well, by restoring the police officers, teachers, firefighters, and other public employees'
We're going to punish them.
You're going to cause that insolvency to occur sooner. And they're right, but the point is number one, it makes it become insolvent about 6 months earlier. But number two, they're not thinking about the fact that rough math, somewhere around $600 to $700 billion has been retained by the Social Security Trust Fund that would have been paid to these very same people over the past 40 years.
Is it applied retroactively or is it prospective only?
You know, Locke, that's a great question. And because of the complexity of this and because of the additional problems it would have caused, we said, look, we're not going to try and go back and grab any of that money and restore any of those dollars. We're only looking prospectively. So we're going to let the trust fund, let the Social Security system get away with retaining about $600 billion in funds that should have been paid to these very same employees. And so they're making out like bandits.
Well, but it's interesting. I'm not a big fan of the whole Social Security thing with it being broken. All that is just a fascinating scenario. But so the other good thing is municipalities and other areas are having a hard time getting people to want to work as a policeman or some of the other positions that might put them in harm's way. And this is a way of incentivizing them, as you pointed out.
It is incentivizing them to come to work, but also retaining them, because some folks will go work as a police officer only to find out years later about this discrimination or penalty. And then they'll say, well, I'm out. But look, you know, that's one of the bills. The other bills you and I have discussed, I mean, looking at some of the needs that we have here related to infrastructure. And we just had Hurricane Francine in North Carolina and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. They're dealing with the fallout of awful fallout of Hurricane Helene over there. So one of the bills that we're doing, in fact, a few bills that we're doing, is reforming the recovery process in disasters to where you don't have to wait years and years. The 2016 flood, we got 1.7 billion. We're 8 years later, Locke, 8 years later, they've only given out 700 million of the 1.7 billion we've gotten them.
That's been set aside.
These programs are broken, absolutely been set aside. So we do a fundamental change there. We inject the dollars as soon as possible, get recovery efforts sparked right away. We have legislation that no longer deploys all of these big FEMA disaster teams in the aftermath of smaller disasters, instead allowing governors to opt for just a check and just say, let the states control the recovery for smaller disasters, things like a tornado or maybe smaller floods that are below a certain dollar threshold. That way, what you can do is you can keep your FEMA teams for the big disasters, for the Hurricane Helene's, where you need everybody there, and you can properly resource it and get those people back on their feet as quickly as possible.
And the local governments, I assume, get the money quicker,
That's
and
right.
they can act quicker, and there's less strings attached.
That's exactly right. So this is common sense. You didn't even know anything about this, but you pick up on it. And so that's exactly what it does. You get the money out the door faster, you take a lot of the strings off it, and you get it to the impacted people much faster. All wins. And look, it's exactly right. And look, unfortunately, we're more experienced than disasters in South Louisiana. So these are all lessons learned. Something else, and being a lawyer, you'll appreciate this. The states of Florida and Texas have 3 marine leagues, or roughly 9 miles of state waters. Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama only have 3 miles, or roughly 1/3. And that's important.
Wait, so explain to me how the two states who have probably more money than anybody out of all those states have a wider, I guess, jurisdictional or control.
That's right.
They get paid for it, right?
No, they didn't pay for it. It's jurisdictional control, but keep in mind, all the energy production, they get money from that, the fisheries management, things like that. So it has to do with a law from the 1940s called the Submerged Lands Act. And it basically says states can have up to 3 marine leagues if they can show they controlled that before being admitted into the union. Bottom line is, we're saying, no, you got to have parity. So we have a bill that fixes that we're moving forward. We have a bill on restoring the coast that's moving forward. So all kinds of things, very diverse portfolio of issues, but all priorities for the state.
So practically speaking, if it's expanded, the state gets revenues from the oil and gas produced instead of the United States federal government.
And then under the state's constitution, the dollars would have to be invested in things like coastal restoration, hurricane protection, and flood control.
It's always about the money, isn't it?
Well, but the fact that we're locking the dollars into resiliency, the reason the federal government and other states should like this is, in the future, it doesn't mean you're going to have billions and billions of dollars going out for disaster recovery because we've built a safer state.
It makes a lot of sense. So give me 1 or 2 other bills or high-focused areas you're looking at before.
Sure. So one of the other big bills that we're working on is related to the regulatory process. So look, you and I have talked about a new bridge crossing the Mississippi River.
I'm thinking of the Virgin Canal now, the Army Corps of Engineers and all that stuff.
Exactly right. And all those projects, as you and I have discussed many times, they've taken decades. And just to give you one example, just to come up with 32 options on where they would potentially build a new bridge, it took the state 7 years. It took the state 7 years just to go through that. So what we've done is we've developed legislation that helps to compress that focuses on the environment, not all of these other ancillary things that, quite frankly, don't have a public really need or public association with them. And that way you can move toward actually building projects. You can focus your dollars and build things much quicker. You can look at other states, other countries are blowing us away in terms of their project efficiency compared to the United States.
I mean, you
So
look at
this
what
helps to
China,
fix
how
that.
quickly they do stuff.
That's it.
It's just fascinating. The whole concept of money being controlled by different parties, it seems like the federal government wants its agencies, for example, the Army Corps of Engineers, they have all their own little jurisdictional issues and they bog it down, then you got another involved party. And so this tries to solve that problem.
It does, and we've got other legislation that actually gives the money to the states instead of the Corps of Engineers. But it does in terms of much more efficient project development and delivery. And look, projects like Comey, Mississippi River Bridge, we don't need to be talking about these for decades.
I agree 100%. We'll be right back. This is Locke Meredith with Congressman Garret Graves. See you soon.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Among the most important factors to consider when you're hiring an injury attorney is trust. You trust your attorney will put your interest first, treat you with respect, fairness, and honesty. You trust them to be there for you when you need them. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, thousands of clients have trusted us to represent them, and for good reasons. Please visit us at LockeMeredith.com to learn more, and whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555. You have nothing to lose.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, very pleased to have back on the show Congressman Garret Graves for District 6. Let's kind of dive back in. So you were talking about how complicated it can be and how long everything is drawn out, whether it's within the democratic process of the House or the Senate. But then you throw in all these regulatory agencies and it's even more complicated because there's like 5 million of those. And how this has resulted both within the party system and from the regulatory agencies, which I kind of call the deep state or administrative state. Inefficiency and just butting heads all the time and not feeling like much is getting done.
Yeah. Look, Locke, you could ask anybody here, tell me about some of your frustrations. You're going to hear about things like traffic, right? You're going to hear about things like, well, it floods too frequently in this area. And as you know, it flooded right here in 2016. And so people oftentimes know what the solutions are. We need to build a new bridge. We need a new road here. We need new lanes here. And when people are talking about these solutions for 20 years and more, you can imagine the frustration, it makes people blow their top. And a lot of it does have to do with just this bureaucracy. Now, no one wants you to go out there and go trash the environment or ignore public opinion or input, but that's exactly what effectively happens by dragging out this project process as long and by making these solutions as evasive as they are. So we've got a number of things we're working on now, and we've already had some enacted, but a number of others that truly do reduce the amount of time and allow us to get project solutions in place much sooner, giving people the traffic solutions they deserve, giving people the flood resiliency that they deserve. And so made some progress, working on some others now, but we can do a lot better as a nation and need to focus on this.
That's the big issue to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I 100% believe in our methods of government and governing ourselves.
Sure.
But it sure feels like there are too few people with too much power. And they end up controlling the whole dadgum government or portions of the government. Pelosi is like our frickin' genie, being able to control everything when she's speaker, So you just go, how do we fix this? I mean, I know voters got to go vote, and we've got elections coming up, and they're a big deal. Explain to folks.
Well, look, I think the first thing is educating people.
Because you've been doing this for what 30 years? You used to intern for John Rowe back in the day? Good Lord.
Been around on and off for a while. But look, bottom line is that I think explaining to people the majority of projects that are carried out across the country don't jump through all these federal hoops because they're funded with private dollars, they're funded with state or local dollars, and they don't have to jump through all of these regulatory hurdles that are put in place. Yet, you still don't have all of this environmental destruction and ignoring the public. And the reason is there are a lot of other support or framework in place, regulations in place to ensure that you're not doing that type of damage. And so we've got to put more faith in the efforts of local governments and state governments and things like that and allow them to have a surrogate process to deliver these wins much, much faster. But Locke, it goes back to, you talked about political parties. It goes back to just the frustration of the public, of the dysfunction of Congress, the party and the divisive polarization that you've seen in recent years. I don't think it's good for our country at all. And it makes Congress more dysfunctional to the point to where people wanting the solutions, they don't ever see results because all they see is the fighting at the end of the day.
So how do we fix that?
Look, a lot of people have solutions. I'll tell you mine. I think that one of the biggest things that we need to do is we've got to change the whole reward mechanism. Right now with social media, for example, the people who get the attention and the recognition are the ones that are the most bombastic, the most radical, the most provocative, as opposed to the people that are actually delivering results. So the thing that I think we've got to encourage or educate voters to do is before they go vote, actually look up some of these people. What have they done? If they've been in public office, have they truly made change, addressed priorities, produced results, given a return on investment for their salary? If they're a new candidate, what have they done previously? Have they done things productive? Have they shown the ability to be successful navigating through turbulent waters or challenging situations? And for example, there's an organization called the Institute for Effective Lawmaking run by Vanderbilt University and the University of Virginia that looks at the effectiveness of different members of Congress and other elected officials.
And hopefully passing it around.
Well, and that's the thing, bringing more attention to metrics like that I would argue really matter. It's not about sending out press releases. It's about truly making change and addressing priorities of the people you're representing.
What about I'm under the impression that a lot of the administrative state agencies have overlapping jurisdiction on same issues, which is just doesn't make any sense at all. How can we fix that?
Yeah, it's another great question, and this is something that actually is in the works right now. We've actually changed the law on this, and one example is you may need a permit, but the permit, you'll have participation from the EPA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Natural Resources Conservation Service and Agriculture. You'll have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, all of these federal alphabet soup agencies there. And you may have one that says this and the other one says this. The way it's currently done, neither are in charge. They're both on equal footing. So if they're just fighting, you don't have anybody to actually call the shot, or that's right, or a judge or an umpire or whatever else.
Right.
So we actually changed the law. And current law that will be fully enacted soon actually says that there is a lead agency. And in fact, in some cases, it could be a state that's a lead agency involving other federal agencies, but somebody there to actually be the arbiter to call the balls and strikes and say at the end of the day, this is what we're going to do.
That's a great.
It is going to be a
huge,
huge benefit and ultimately help to advance a lot of projects that have been stuck for a long time.
So tell me kind of what the plan is come January.
Well,
because I know you get to spend more time with your family and your kids.
Yeah, I heard an elected official was retiring the other day, and they said that they're no longer going to serve the public and instead serve their family, which it kind of touched me a little bit. But look, I think you always have an obligation to the community, but certainly being able to spend more time with family, not being on travel as much as I am now, going back and forth.
Because people don't really understand. Y'all have to run every 2 years, and you're back and forth between D.C. and Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Usually 3 weeks a month, traveling back and forth, and it has a big impact. It really does. It's a lot of stress on the family, and so I'm looking forward to a little bit more stability there. But in terms of January, I'm not sure yet. But both my wife and the bank have made it clear I've got to pay the mortgage, so I'm gonna have to figure that out.
You better hurry up and get another one, huh? Well, so give me your final analysis kind of your life experience for the last 10 years, pouring it out like you have, and the sacrifices your family's made.
Yeah.
Would you do it again? And if so, why?
So look, number one, I can't look back at those 10 years and say anything other than it has been an honor, it's been a privilege, and I think we've done a very good job. Am I going to say perfect, batted 1,000? No. But
you're the hardest working congressperson I've ever seen.
Well, we have a great team of people in Louisiana and in Washington. Very, very pleased with our outcome and results compared to other offices.
And you said it was like ranked number 6?
We were ranked as high as the 5th most effective office in terms of delivering results. But look, representing 800,000 people, which you can imagine, incredibly diverse ideas and solutions. It's tough sometimes trying to figure out where consensus is if you can only vote yes or no. But look, this has been a complete honor. This is such a great part of the country, and I won't look back at this.
Well, Garret, I want to thank you for
privilege.
your sacrifice, your family's sacrifice on behalf of all of Louisiana.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're fantastic. Folks, thank you for being with us. It's Locke Meredith, Legal Lines, and Congressman Garret Graves.